Alright, so obviously, what's a formula for the 150 subscribers is kind of a lame special. So, I couldn't help but watch, I was watching like a top list or whatever it is, and I couldn't help but think, I think, aside from a few people, I have pretty much every single WrestleMania main eventer, at least one figure form. Not every attire necessarily, but why not just do a giant video of WrestleMania 1 through 40 and see who I'm missing. Now, right off the bat, I already know that one main event can't be redone by me because I don't collect the wrestling females. But you can, I think it's what, WrestleMania 35 with Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. So, obviously Mattel has all three of those. So you can essentially remake that one too. But I don't have all those. But here's what I do have. Let's get started. So WrestleMania 1, however you categorize your figures, I've got, basically non-champions, half tag champions, like it was like a half person without their partner. Maybe their partner went on to do better things, so they were like the Marty Jannetty of the group. Then you have tag teams that the best they ever got was tag belts. Then you've got like middleweights, middleweights also being like also the NXT championship, the North American Championship. Then you've got world champions. That could be Ring of Honor. That could be TNA. That could be AEW, WCW. Could even be the World Heavyweight. And, the WCW Championship. Then you have the WWF, WWE champions, which are going to be, guys who like CM Punk was, champion. He never main evented WrestleMania. So the last category I put, the highest is the WrestleMania main event because there's only so many people for that. So, WrestleMania 1 tag team match. Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff teaming up to face, and you can get both these guys through Mattel. You can actually get everybody through Mattel here except for Paul Orndorff has not had an Ultimate Mattel version. He's at Elite. Teammates Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. So, and I do believe this is the authentic attire of Mr. T from WrestleMania 1. I mean, he only had like a couple matches, and this is pretty much it. I think they did like a blue attire promo thing, but then when this came out in Ultimate, I was like, you know what? All right. Funny thing about this is this torso has been used on a lot of African American Ultimate Customs because there's just so few people. They haven't barely released hardly any African American. Besides Bobby Lashley and Mr. T and Zeus, I think that's about it. I mean, you actually count Rock a little bit. Move out of the way, girl. Sorry, my dog almost sat on one of the figures. So that's WrestleMania 1 right there, down the pipeline. Now, funny thing is Orndorff, Piper, and T would never make a reappearance in the main event scene ever again. But this guy sure would. And it was Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 2 taking on this next individual. And if you don't know the history of WrestleMania, that's okay. Where is he? Oh, stop the video for a second. Pause. Okay, found him. So, thought he was in a different taupe. He's not. So, Hulk Hogan Ultimate, of course. You can get many different versions to him so far. I think this is more of his like WCW almost. Not WCW quite, but the Amazon exclusive Hogan. But you can't get this guy unless you create him. And I already shared the formula on this guy. King Kong Bundy Ultimate. And it is Ultimate. Butterfly joints are there. Formula for him was very fun when I was building it. There's only so many people you can build use the Andre the Giant torso. And I pretty much ran out of everybody I can. I think I've got a couple more surprises with him. So, obviously, there's WrestleMania 2. Now, this next one's no surprise. You can recreate this one anytime you want. Because especially if you have an Andre and a Hogan of any kind, there's WrestleMania 3 when Hogan slammed Andre the Giant. But then Hogan decided to take a break. And they decided to put two other people. Now, this person's coming out with Mattel officially released Ultimate. And this other person has Ultimates, but currently doesn't have a contract anymore. So, again, the tires are not accurate because he wore tight trunks back then. But Macho Man and $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase in that 16-man tournament for the crown of the champion after the whole controversy with Hogan. So there is these two. Obviously, you're going to get a Coliseum Collection Ted DiBiase very soon. Well, in the fall, coming up here within the year. Savage, of course, this Savage coming only from the crowdfunder, the only successful one we've had so far. Oh, poor WCW ring. Or Nitro stage. What could have been with DDP? Anyway, Macho Man Randy Savage, of course. I've got a few of him just in case. I boosted this one up a little bit. I had some tassels from, Whatnot. Not from Whatnot, but I added some tassels. I think these were Tyler Breeze tassels from a basic figure, but it just kind of helps fill it out a little bit better. So, now, Savage would return in the main event to face Hogan, WrestleMania 5. So, again, you're probably getting sick of seeing this Hogan. He's only around for a few more, don't worry. So, then a new challenger would come on board, and you can get the actual attire of that individual. I only keep one Warrior because I already have over 300 Ultimates as it is. So I went with the, one of his best matches from WrestleMania 6 to the attire from his worst match with Hogan from Halloween Havoc 98. I don't know, I just like this one. It's, it fits in really well with, not the old school look, but I mean, like the modernized look a little bit. It can work for both, really. So, and Warrior would never grace the main event again, so he's done. No more main events for him. Savage also never go back to the main event as well. But who would come up in WrestleMania 7? Well, a very unlikely individual would come up in this one. In this one, I'm waiting for them maybe to maybe release an official one that's more of his wrestling attire. I mean, this one in itself, very expensive, especially the black card version, but Sergeant Slaughter. Now, you can get both these again from Mattel, so it's not like this is a special, I only have this and you don't kind of mentality. A lot of people have this if they're willing to put the money in for it. There's also, like I said, there's a variant version. I dare not try to try to do something with this one. If the parts come along or I can make him again, I'll probably consider making him more look like his WrestleMania 7 attire. So there's his main event sniff. Then WrestleMania 8 comes along. Now this person actually main evented WrestleMania twice. And there is, of course, Psycho Sid. Or Sid Justice at the time. And I still have yet to fix that stupid knee pad. I keep forgetting to do that. The problem with this, though, is I'm always worried, to take all this, this stuff off. But I'm going to fix that knee pad eventually. Who knows? He might see a release one day. Then Hogan, again, took a break. And the new main event, and because of Mattel just releasing it, and I actually got this about, I want to say a month before they popped up, eBay. Little pricey. Mine actually from Target is actually on its way here finally, but I already gifted or made a deal with somebody who was doing my decals on a lot of my figures. I think like 15 of them in exchange for the Yokozuna. So WrestleMania 9's main event, Bret Hart and Yokozuna. Now he wore more of a pretty much all pink attire with invert colors. This is from the Monday Night Wars. Of course, I've altered it to not have drop down hips. I actually took it apart from the Canadian Stampede, which is literally the same exact figure, just the elite, more expensive form. And Yoko. I'd seen somebody mod his arms to make them a little bit bigger. I thought about doing that, but I'm not too worried about it. So, there's WrestleMania 9 and WrestleMania 10, because Hogan would not be interfering in that one. And of course, Hogan would come out and do a little, thing, but then he actually disappears. No more main event Hogan. Yeah, he had a good run. Eight, technically 9 WrestleManias. So, then it would go entirely to 2 different people, and I have one here. I'm thinking they might make one eventually. They love to make celebrities, but here is Custom Ultimate Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, he wore more of a purple attire at the event. He fought LT, I forget the last name. Lawrence Taylor. That's right, LT, Lawrence Taylor. He would fight Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania 11. He'd lose to him. Obviously there's no Lawrence Taylor sculpted head out there, so unless Mattel decides to make it, I'm not going to really be too bothered by it or worried by it. So, dog just made a jump to the to the bed from the chair. So, easily, I already talked about the formula. Someone's actually even taken my formula and decided to start building their own, and I'm like, beautiful, I love it, good job. So, then Brett would return back to the main event scene, but he would not be alone. In fact, he'd have to go through a grueling match with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, from WrestleMania 12. People are flabbergasted we haven't gotten a Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 12 Ultimate. I mean, it's the decal, to make it really look authentic, you're going to need Ultimate budget. So, this is the Elite Shawn Michaels Defining Moments HBK. Obviously, the Amazon exclusive boots from the Shawn Michaels. And then, of course, the Amazon Shawn Michaels torso. And then you just switch out the arms. Boom. There you go. There's a Ultimate Shawn Michaels. I personally like this one. This is from his Royal Rumble 97 look. This is probably one of the first VHS tapes my aunt recorded for me to watch. I watched it over and over again. She never put long play, so every time I watch him versus Sid, it ends with him like kicking him in the gut. And then years later, during a recital, a few years later, I ended up actually recording before it, so that so it comes on with him like already doing his pose, whatnot, and then even then, it got recorded over again. So you don't even see this match anymore. You see like him doing the whole hype thing, and then it cuts over to some recital of me doing like Titanic with violin. I don't even know where that VHS tape is anymore. It's probably long since been destroyed or deteriorated. But there was WrestleMania 12's main event. Then these two, this would actually be Brett's last WrestleMania main event. It was WrestleMania 12. Then this individual would return with this other individual, and it would be Psycho Sid. For the first time in the main event of WrestleMania, The Undertaker. Now you're going, wait a minute, that looks like that Target exclusive Undertaker. Not quite. That one's red. This is blue. This was a custom. Someone used painted over Diesel. They actually used Diesel to tear him apart and make this happen. I already bought two of the discounted Undertakers just in case they decide to tell me you didn't pay for these full price. We're not going to honor that. Hopefully they do. So at the same time, I know it's going to have drop down hips. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to do something to it eventually. But for now, I like this one better than the current Ministry Undertaker. And I switched the head. Originally just had the head, whatever it is, but I switched over the head. It works great. It's missing the Sarah tap. That's fine. You can see it still looks good. So, Sid you've seen countless times. Taker's main event, WrestleMania 13. And that's because Shawn and Brett, Shawn got injured, and so they're like, well, let's give Taker the spot. Wasn't planned. Originally was not planned at all. He was planning to face somebody, I think, probably Sid, at the pay-per-view, but not for the belt. And they're like, well, let's put the belt on him. Because Shawn's out. Brett's, with Stone Cold right now. So, probably one of the lower, sadly, one of the, not hyped up matches. Supposedly, legend has it that Sid crapped himself during the Tombstone. But Shawn would return. Brett would not return, but Shawn would return to start in the new wave, or help start the new wave. So he'd be here, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, this Austin's been modified with a different head, thicker thighs. I didn't actually make this one. This one was done differently, and so I was like, sweet. So I snagged this one and then started tearing apart the one I had before. Because as you know, Austin was made very thin, but this torso has built so many different figures, and it will continue to build so many more. I've actually bought like 4 or 5 more waiting for people to arrive. So WrestleMania 14's main event, Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Special review is Mr. T. I'm sure Mattel will surprise us one day with a Mr. T figure. If not, I'm sure there's people out there who make it. I mean, again, I go for the wrestlers, not so much the hype behind everything. Shawn would not be done with the WrestleMania main event, though. He'll be back. So, WrestleMania, that was 13, or 14. So 15 comes in, sorry. This is 15. And you can get different versions of this person. I just have this one right now because I just like the jacked look Rock. Stone Cold versus The Rock. Of course, these two would clash again at 17. They would go and have a match at 19, but it wouldn't be the main event. So, then Austin would go down with an injury. So, WrestleMania 16 would be 4 people, including Triple H's first main event. Now, I just realized as I was doing this, my Big Show's not here. The arms were still being decaled out before I got confidence to build my own. So, the arms are on the way back. He'll be here probably by the end of this week, but I'm at my other job right now. So it was actually Fatal 4-Way. It was Rock, it was Mick Foley, all I have is Mankind Ultimate, and it was Triple H. So it was originally supposed to be a triple threat match. It was going to be Big Show, Triple H, and Rock, and they had it on Raw like the night before, like literally like the night, the week before. And then Triple H retained, and they said, "Oh, this match isn't going to happen." And Triple H, that was the whole stipulation, was like, "Well, if I beat him tonight, I don't have to fight at WrestleMania." And then he was like, "I'm just going to sit out and enjoy not being at WrestleMania or not having to work WrestleMania." And then they introduced Mick Foley, and he was now, no longer, he didn't have the mask and whatnot. He was just Mick Foley. So it was a cool main event. It was different, definitely. So, like I said, 17 comes up, and you're back to Austin and Rock 2. This would, of course, be the famous night when Austin would turn heel and, team up with Mr. McMahon to beat The Rock. The Rock would obviously start to go off to Hollywood at this point. So they'd write him off the next night. Him and Triple H go on the two-man power trip. A lot of hullabaloo. The invasion happens. We roll around to WrestleMania 18, and you've got Triple H returning from injury after winning the Royal Rumble versus the first ever undisputed champion, Chris Jericho. And this was not the attire, it was a green attire, but it was, the kind of the concept was he had the red hair. This was his only WrestleMania main event. Triple H, of course, we're going to have a few more. So, Triple H, of course, would win that night, and that'd be the end of that. And then things would change. The brand split would take apart, the draft would happen, and you'd get two new people. Where are they? Oh, okay. So, obviously, you don't have a lot of older guys coming back for the thing. In fact, the first time you probably saw in a while, a lot of new main eventers, like completely two new main eventers entirely, and that was being Brock Lesnar. Of course, you can get his younger version, and Kurt Angle. Now, Kurt, I think at this point was already bald by now, so this is the only Kurt we have currently in the Mattel Elite line. I've seen people make bald ones. If they do make a bald one, I'll maybe look into it. Right now, I'm not too worried about it. So, I know people don't like this cloth singlet, so they're hoping for a molded singlet. But that was your WrestleMania 19. And I was actually at that event. And fun fact was the person I was with, my grandfather didn't care for it, so he had one of his employees take me. And it was going. The show was long, and so the guy was like, "Hey, we gotta leave. We're gonna catch that last ferry across the river back to your grandfather's. Otherwise, we gotta travel like 2 hours around this giant river up in Seattle." So I actually missed the ending. I remember him doing the F5, and then literally as the fireworks were going off in the count, I was already pretty much rushed out the door. The fireworks were going off, and we were already on our way to get to that ferry before it left, because it left probably like maybe 3 minutes. We got there 3 minutes before it took off, and that was the last one of the night. I don't know why they did it that way. Knowing they had WrestleMania, they should have made a special later delay, but they didn't. So nonetheless, great main event, great match. I missed the Brock Lesnar shooting star thing. I heard the people go, "Oh God," the horrible. I've seen the pictures. So interesting tidbit on this Kurt Angle too, though. I do want to try to find a way, and I think I just saw that they're doing that Elite one. So I might, because I've already taken apart one of these Kurts. It's the standard connector style. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up making a non-drop down hip Kurt Angle, because it's bugging the heck out of me to have to keep pushing the legs back up and whatnot. And with Kurt, you want to be able to snap those hips. You want to be able to do the angle slam and all these moves. And half the time you got just looks like his leg's been knocked out of socket. So not a happy fan about that. On to WrestleMania 20. Now WrestleMania 20 took place in New York. It was probably the VHS tape I watched the most, to the point where it literally stopped working. It stopped working. Like, I watched it so much, it would sound, but the video was gone. So years later, I have DVDs, so I'm not too worried about it. And this one, of course, is now forgotten to the annals of time because of the situation with a certain individual. And you're never going to see Mattel release the third person, but we got Shawn and we got Triple H. And then if you're following the formulas, or if you find somebody on eBay who does a lot of these, I haven't thought about maybe using some decals and making it a little bit cleaner. I mean, the paint job's nice though, but there is the WrestleMania 20 attire, Chris Benoit, and I was very thrilled when I saw this figure. It's perfect for the body style. He was literally, skinnier legs, just ripped torso. And I mean, his height really works really well for this one. This, of course, the famous spot from this one was where they both basically, him and Shawn were on the table. They picked him up, they suplexed him, broke him through a table, and people thought, that's the end of Benoit. But he'd come back and win it. And it was a feel-good moment at the time. Again, at the time, it was a feel-good moment. If you look at everything, from what happened after his incident, naturally you're going to be like, wow, that was, this guy was terrible. But at the time, people loved Benoit. At the time, before all that, they were like, this dude earned it. He, deserves respect. The fact he beat Shawn and Triple H. People were a little mad with Shawn for being in that match. They thought it should have been Triple H versus Benoit. But I think it really helped with it because Shawn bled, just bled to make it more intense. The fact that he, Triple H was wearing white boots to kind of say, like, oh, he's the good guy in this situation. And then just the fact that he got him to tap out, Triple H tap out at WrestleMania. 20, just a great one. And then, of course, him and Eddie embracing afterwards. It's sad to know what happens in the future, but, at the time, that was, I mean, if what hadn't happened, what did happen had not happened, that picture would have easily been on that Then Now Forever for generation to come. Benoit would have been regarded as just one of the all-time greats. There would have been Mattel figures. There would have been DVDs, a Hall of Fame. Some people say he was he was murdered and framed. Others say he did it. Who am I to judge? I don't know what was going on with the person, but I do know that when he was in the ring, he was entertaining to watch. I enjoyed, his moves. I enjoyed seeing those high angle backdrops, seeing the sell points. I mean, I even used the cripple crossface a little bit before and after his issue because I was, in wrestling at the time. I used to do a thing where I'd try to go up on the top rope and then I'd jump down like Undertaker, but then I would drop down and take it into imagine a 6'9" guy doing a freaking crossface from the top, trying to do a cross race setup from the top rope. It was weird, but I made it work. Again, you can get this figure. You can build a Chris Benoit. There's people who have head sculpts of the Benoit. There's people who have paint and the decals of the Benoit because not everybody is cynical to the point where they're like, oh no, he can't be ever recreated. I have Jimmy Snuka for crying out loud. So what happened is tragedy, but I'll never, WrestleMania 20 to me was a great, great venue, and I still enjoy watching it to this day. So, now on to WrestleMania 21. So things changed. Benoit, no longer in the main event. He was a one-time shot deal. Shawn would go on to have a match with Kurt at WrestleMania 21, but wasn't the main event. No, the main event would see the new face of WWE, basically, Batista, would come out and defeat Triple H and win the world title. So Batista would come out, he would beat Triple H, and he would basically, supposed to start the new era. Batista would never go into another main event. Well, actually, I spoke too soon. He does come back, and obviously I will go into that one in the future, but he does come back. Triple H, of course, would come back and find himself in the main event the next year, and this time he would lose to the guy that would win his first world title at WrestleMania 21 as well against JBL in the non-main event, and he would tap out to Cena. And this was supposed to set up a rematch where Triple H was supposed to win at WrestleMania 23. Cena would tap him out. Triple H would go down with a knee injury, so he would not be at the main event of WrestleMania 23. Instead, and I have the actual tire turned into an Ultimate. I didn't have it here. I have it in my display case because I was very proud. I built that. I think it was one of my first building my own Shawn Michaels one. This one actually I didn't build. This Shawn Michaels, excuse me. I didn't build this Shawn Michaels. I built the WrestleMania 23 one. This one I acquired, and I was like, you know what? I want to keep him more in the tights right now than the long pants. But he would take on a Cena, camo Cena, who would show up in camo attire, more green attire, show up with that weird, driving the scene car because it's Detroit and whatnot. He'd smash through that window. He'd come out, and I watched this with bated breath, thinking they're gonna give Shawn the belt one more run. He wants the belt one more time. And then Cena can come back and win the belt again or whatever it is, and it didn't happen. And instead, he tapped out. And it was a little bit bitter. It was very sad because at the time I was going through a situation with a fiance, ex now, long ex, long ago. Actually, we had broken up literally that day. So I remember watching it, and then I just couldn't sleep, so I walked all the way home, only to run into her or agree to meet at the mall to talk to her. She told me she was gonna go date some guy she had been talking to online in Texas, and a bunch of craziness. Um, it was just a really really weird time in my life when I was in my early 20s. But the point is, that's not what we're here for. You want you can get John Cena. In fact, they're re-releasing I think John Cena pretty soon. You can get the one in the blue pants. If it had drop down hips, I would have already replaced this and done like that camo, that Desert Storm looking camo one. I like that Rise Above Hate look back when he had that going, that whole gimmick. The green was cool too. I remember when I had the Jax figures. I used to have the green John Cena, and he pretty much was taking on Big Show, taking everybody. I loved the formula to that one. These formulas are great, except for like I said, some people don't like the boots. The toe articulation, I'm not worried about it. I mean, I thought about maybe switching to get it more colorful, but for the most part, I'm okay with this one. This one works, and I love the fact. This is why I love the Ultimates. I mean, I can pose him perfectly for the attitude, the fu. You can't do that with the elites. The elites don't go far back enough. You can get like one leg back there and maybe like that, but here you can actually get the full contact, throw it up, throw it down. I mean, you couldn't do that with old school style toys. That was WrestleMania 23. 24. 24 would be another main event of a return of a person, and he hadn't been in the main event for a while. Even though he had been synonymous WrestleMania, they had not given him anything, and it was gonna be The Undertaker against Edge. So this is my super jacked Edge because I always felt like the torso they gave Edge, that Ken doll looking torso, I didn't like that. And really give him credit. I mean, I watched some of his matches. I mean, except for the arms being a little bit odd shaped compared to this, he did get pretty jacked. He wasn't as jacked when he fought Taker or WrestleMania 24, but there's an Edge. Again, you can just go buy the standard Mattel Edge, but it doesn't have butterfly joints. It's the older style torso, which is why I had to do this instead. You can, some people do him Seth Rollins. I thought about it, but I mean, at the same time, Edge was like 6'5". Now, the one problem with this one is the legs. I'm always afraid that this leg's gonna snap, so I'm gonna probably put it in some hot water, try to move it a little bit. This leg's fine, like you can do a kick one up. But this leg's always concerning me, and this is literally how all his elite versions of this was, and apparently this is also a WrestleMania attire from the Triple Threat. I always thought it was something entirely different. I always thought it was a different color, but no, this is WrestleMania attire from the Triple Threat with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, which we'll discuss later. So on to WrestleMania 25. And 25 would feature one of the greatest matches, Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, but that would not be the main event. Would not be the main event. No, what the main event would be a lackluster match, and that's because all the air and all the emotion was gone from Taker Michaels. I mean, they said themselves that they should have been the main event. But you had Triple H, the babyface, versus the heel, and basically, if I remember correctly, Triple H was a champion, Randy was a challenger, and everyone thought that Randy was going to, because he was in his whole Viper and destructiveness, that he was going to win, and he actually did not. Triple H would somehow defend and retain the title. He'd lose the belt later on, but Orton did not get his WrestleMania moment. He did not win the belt over Triple H at WrestleMania 25. 26, however, would right the wrong of 25, and that would be Undertaker Shawn 2, and that would main event WrestleMania 26. And I have the elite version of that Shawn Michaels that just came out a while back, and I'm debating on getting an Amazon and turning it into an Ultimate. It is such a sick looking attire. I love the gold one from WrestleMania 25, but I also like this one, the Last Hurrah. One of the greatest attires of Shawn from the pant days was when he returned and fought Orton. It was like that creamish tan color and then black and whatnot. And it was, for some reason, I just liked the look of that. It was just so sick looking, especially he comes out in it and he just starts whooping on Orton. Of course, this would be Shawn's swan song as far as actively in WWE. He would lose. He'd slap Taker. Taker would be like, okay, you want to do that, and to jump up and do a giant tombstone to him and put him down for good. realizing that he was going to retire and whatnot, it wasn't. I feel like the emotion wasn't as it was the year before, when like it was me and a bunch of people. We were all wrestling fans. We just did a wrestling show, and we sat there with like 20 people inside of a small living room watching WrestleMania 25, and you had half of us for Taker and half of us for Shawn. So it was just like, I was like, yeah, kick out Shawn, kick, it was crazy. I remember the girlfriend, it was Ariel at the time. It was a girl named Ariel, and she had never seen, been to anything like this, and so she was having a blast. She was like, you guys are just so, everyone was just having a blast. It was a fun time. It was a great match, and I think that's why I consider it just the greatest, because it was just, I'd never seen so many people. We were so drained by the time the match, we were watching it from TV. But 26 came along, and you kind of knew, like, I didn't realize he was gonna retire. I didn't know about that kind of stuff yet, but like, looking back, I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely probably retiring eventually, and then he did. Especially I think when they announced his career, I was like, oh crap, this is gonna be into him, because yeah, it was daunting. No one thought the streak was gonna end. No one did. So that match, was exciting. But again, you can get yourself an Undertaker. The Target one's coming out pretty soon. Amazon Shawn. I already told you how to build Shawn's. And then we went to WrestleMania 27. Dean, probably one of the worst WrestleManias in the modern era. Just no offense to the to the person who was Cena's opponent that night, but you just. Did you really think this person would be main event WrestleMania? And he was on a decent roll, but he was kind of like, if anything, it was problematic. You knew it was going to be, Cena was going to be victorious or whatever it is. But then when The Rock started coming back around, you start thinking, is this just a giant ad for WrestleMania 28? Because literally you've got The Miz, Ultimate Miz, which somebody's been clamoring on Wrestling Figs for them to make it, and it's become like a joke now, and everybody else was like, oh, hey, look, they've announced new stuff. No Miz. Who knows? He might get one. He might not. I would buy one. I built one. Cena. Rock would cost him. Miz would actually win his one and only WrestleMania main event. And that'd be the end of Miz as far as a main eventer at WrestleMania. Then it came down to this match. WrestleMania 28. 1 year of build. The Rock would return. He'd show up at some Survivor Series, fight The Miz and R-Truth when they were the Awesome Truth or whatever it is. And then you had Cena versus Rock. And Rock would actually turn back the clock and beat Cena. CM Punk, of course, around this time was very unhappy with the company. People thought they're going to put Cena versus Rock versus Punk, because that's where the money, or actually that was 29, sorry. 28, it was like, no, it was just Cena Rock. Then when Cena Rock 2 came along at WrestleMania 29, that's when people thought they're going to swerve it. They're going to throw CM Punk in there, give him his due. He's going to make a whole new dynamic. And no, you get to fight Undertaker, but you don't get the main event spot, Punk. Sorry. It's going to be Rock Cena 2. This time, though, it would be different. The Rock would end up getting injured. Cena would, attitude adjust him to, basically be passed the torch, hand raised, and really, in a sense, it's like they gave Cena the torch, but then Cena's like, hey, Rock, you got some Hollywood contacts? Maybe I can make some movies. You got a good agent. Before you know it, off to Hollywood he went. 31 came out. Or 30 comes along. And no Cena. He's doing a little part-time stuff here and there. No, the return of the Animal, Batista. And he's going to fight Orton. And oh my gosh, is this going to become one of the worst WrestleManias, because nobody cared to see Orton versus Cena. They'd rather see Orton, Batista versus Brock. That was another option I think on the table where people thought was going to happen. So you got these two, but nah, the fans ain't having it, and they were fed up and they were tired of the same people, even though it wasn't the same people, but at the same time it felt like the same people. Storyline, this and that. Now you got to have this guy. Daniel Bryan. Now, this Daniel Bryan, of course, is not double jointed. This is from a attire he did wear in AEW recently. Of course, he's had some really cool ones. I wanted to make the WrestleMania 31, but everyone I kept finding, the boots were faded, the trunks were faded. I haven't been able to find any. It's almost like that one had defective beard. Even the beard in the face started to break apart. So I want a short hair Bryan that kind of works well with the modern, when he's fighting Roman with Edge and whatnot. So Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 30, he would defeat Batista and Orton and win the belts, and everyone would go home happy, and he'd go on to have a 10-year, main event run. No, I'm kidding. Unfortunately, he'd get injured, and I remember though that sixth spot though where they went to Batista bomb him, and Orton's supposed to catch him and help him get out, and just completely whiffed it and missed, and he just went head first. It was pretty brutal, but kudos to Bryan. Worked his tail off. I mean, the guy's not that big. I mean, I'm taller than that, than Daniel Bryan, but I didn't have wrestling camps around where I grew up, and the ones I did have, unfortunately, they were on the tail end and full of drug addicts. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to learn how to wrestle in Portland. Portland wrestling's gone. Piper at this point, I think, also had perished, sadly. So there was no more Portland wrestling with Piper backing it, none of that stuff. So Bryan would do that, and then they'd go on and start building the Roman Reigns project. And Roman Reigns has pretty much been synonymous with WrestleManias through 31 all the way to 40. And I think it's only recently that he's kind of like, I'm done. But it'd be Roman Reigns taking on Brock Lesnar. Now, this was the main event, okay? This was officially the booked main event. And then this man would come in and crash it and win the belt. The heist of the century, I think it was. And it was a cool moment because, yeah, I mean, I remember watching Lesnar and Roman. I was like, I wasn't like hating it, but at the same time, I was like, all right, come on, get this over with. Lesnar dropped the belt to Roman and get the new guy in here. We need the new champion. He hasn't been belt champion yet. They want to build him. Whoa, wait, what's going on? Wait, Seth Rollins over Roman? What? It was a little shocking. I wasn't the biggest supporter of the Shield. In fact, when I'd play the GM mode or not the GM, but the Universe mode with my buddy and three of his friends, they'd all pick Shield members, and I'd be like, man, screw that. I'm not picking these guys. And I'd go out of my way to personally, whenever we had matches, try to, in season mode, you can kind of do injuries. I was hoping to try to injure them, so I would try to go on my way to do all I could to, like, beat the Shield, beat up any member of the Shield I could. I want to say Jericho was back at the time, I think. Either Jericho or I always pick somebody, somebody who just nobody really used anymore. So Seth would steal the belt, but that would not be the end of Roman. Nope, Roman would instead, WrestleMania 32? This work is kind of hazy for me. But WrestleMania 32 would see Roman take on Triple H. Or was it Undertaker? I don't remember. That's how bad the WrestleManias have unfortunately become. I think it was Roman versus Triple H. I think it was 32, yeah. Roman would take on Triple H. He'd beat Triple H. Who did he fight at 33? Or was it 33? I don't remember. So he would beat Triple H. I'm gonna look at it real quick. So let me pause this real fast. Okay, so yeah, it would be Triple H would lose to Roman. Then 33 would be the main event of Undertaker versus Roman, and Roman would beat Undertaker in the main event, and that would be Undertaker's last WrestleMania main event. He didn't have too many. Then 34 would come along, and 34, and I apologize, this is what's sad about the new WrestleManias is that they don't stick with you like the old ones do. I guess it's just formulaic that they're always the same, it seems like. WrestleMania 34, it would be... Wouldn't be that. Definitely wouldn't be that. AJ would beat Shinsuke, but that was the main event. What? Wait, which for the main event, the Raw brand. Let's see, where's the card? Oh, okay, it was. I think it was, yeah. It would be Roman versus Lesnar. And if I remember correctly, Lesnar would go over and actually beat Roman on this night. Despite nobody caring about this main event. They hated this. Again, hindsight's 2020. I mean, maybe we'll look back and be like, oh, that epic clash between Roman and Lesnar, but it's like the fans did not want this. They did not care for this. So that would be 34. Then 35 is the one I was talking about. 35 would have been the women. Yeah, the main event was in the main event. Becky Lynch defeated. Yeah, you can get all three of those figures on Mattel. I don't have them. I'm not sexist around like that. I don't click the diva figures, the women figures, because they're more fragile. And I used to have, I used to try to, but the problem is like sometimes I'd like go for something and like the arm would snap or something like that. I'd go to twist their arm out to do like a punch and it'd snap. So I was like, I'm done with these. They're just not, I understand they're trying to build them to look realistic, but they break too easily. You need some thick plastic, otherwise they break. I mean, it's in Ellsworth as well. So that would happen. Then we'd go on to 36, and 36 would be because of COVID. And that's when you get the 2-night main events. If I remember correctly, that was the night 1 and night 2. And let's see. But I don't count both nights as separate main events. I really don't, because I feel like that's just kind of cheating. The main event of a card, like a WrestleMania, not WrestleMania Sunday and WrestleMania Saturday. No, I count the last match of that setup lineup. And that would have been Drew McIntyre versus Lesnar. And Drew would go on to defeat Lesnar and celebrate in a crowd of less than like 20 people. The joke used to be that I competed in front of more people on the indie scene live than WrestleMania 36, because I understand COVID. Because at the time, I think the highest we ever competed was like maybe 100 people back at the Halloween festival, Scream at the Beach out in Jansen Beach in Oregon. I was on the card. I wasn't the main event, but I was. Did a battle royal. There's about 20 of us. Did a battle royal. I would win that battle royal, and then I'd come out with new debuting music that I had picked out for myself, which was from one of the Assassin's Creed games. It was called like Iron or something like that. And it was like, a real sense of fun is burning my head. I'm closer to the bone. I am a soldier on my own. I don't know the way. But it was like a really cool, like, dun, 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 dun. It was really cool music. And my gimmick was like this new MMA / kind of just beast like, gimmick. Looking back, it didn't last. I ended up changing my music to like a Terminator music where like it just starts with Johnny Cash's God's Gonna Cut You Down, and it was like, it doesn't feel pity or remorse or pain, and it will not stop ever until you are dead. And there's like, dum, dum, dum. You can run on for a long time, run on for a long. And that was my whole gimmick, is that my move was like the cut down. It was basically like Sheamus's pump kick, except for I would do it to the back of your head. I'd kick you in the back of the head. God's gonna cut you down sooner or later. He'll cut you down. It was a cool song. People liked it. So Drew would go on to win. He'd get the belt. He never would go to the main event again, unless you count WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday being separate events. I don't. So he did win a belt, in front of fans finally, which was cool. Long-term story booking. Then we go on to 37. And boy, what was 37? 37, if I remember correctly. This is where I'm starting because they're not too far ago. But if I remember correctly, 37 was the triple threat match. Yeah. You had Edge, who had won the Rumble. You had Roman, who just every WrestleMania now, from here on out, has to be Roman Reigns. At least until 40, maybe 41. Or he'll be back probably before 41. Or maybe he'll be back for 41. Who knows? And Daniel Bryan. And a lot of people thought Reigns was going to actually lose to Edge. They thought, okay, Edge is going to get like one last hurrah. But it didn't happen. Instead, interference happened. Roman beat Daniel, beat Edge, stacked them, pinned them both in the main event. And then basically beat them all the way to AEW. Because both these guys said, see ya. And they left. That was the end of it. They were fed up. Maybe they were tired of the way they were getting pushed. Maybe they wanted to wrestle more. Maybe, they didn't like the gimmicks. They were, basically everybody was sacrificed to Roman Reigns to really build him up. And I understand why they did that in a sense, but at the same time, you didn't see Stone Cold doing that. I mean, when Austin won the belt, he beat Shawn. He beat Dude Love. Two back-to-back pay-per-views. He took on Dude Love. in 2 pay-per-views. And then I think, gosh, after that, he dropped the belt. He dropped the belt to Kane for one night, won it back. Um, he then, he would go on and have like a triple threat match where he'd lose it to Kane and Undertaker in a sense, and you don't have it anymore, it's mine. He didn't hold the belt for 3 years, and he's still considered the greatest, wrestler in the WWF. I mean, he's still considered, the highest earner. I mean, the numbers he was pulling in back in the day. I mean, make no mistake, this guy kept WWE afloat and brought it back up when they were winning that, when they were losing the war. A bunch of people were responsible. Austin easily knew that to have a competitive, and an emotionally charged title, scene, you're going to have new champions. And the Roman stuff was cool at first, and then it just got boring. I mean, I think people watched it, hoping that he would lose, and I understand that whole thing, but at the same time, I feel like it just got, you end up pissing off a lot of wrestlers, and they end up just going to a different company. Like, I'm just going to go over here and do this where I have fun. It's better than just, formulaic, oh, here you go, we're going to give you all this push, and hopefully you're going to think you're going to win, and then a bunch of people are just going to jump you, and, that guy's going to retain. That's just my thoughts on that. I digress. Now, we go to WrestleMania 38. So 37 happened, and then we get to WrestleMania 38. And that would be Lesnar Roman 3. And the result this time was Roman would actually beat Lesnar and unify the belts and really make the title scene terrible. As far as anybody else moving up the ladder or getting, anywhere else, to the point where they had to literally create a new world title to give somebody to fight for something somewhere else, because it was just getting formulaic. I mean, no offense, I understand Roman. Hey, me and him are part of the same. We're part of the same club of cancer survivors. I'm a 3-time survivor. He's a leukemia survivor. Mine's Hodgkin's lymphoma 3 times. So, we still have that. That I guess that unlucky fate in life of just getting cancer for no apparent reason. I don't smoke. I didn't do anything like that. It was just genetics. And unfortunately, it seems like it's the same for him. He's got a different type of cancer, but still, we're part of that cancer survivor club. Which, sadly, we lose some brothers and sisters every year. It's unfortunate. I know that mine will come back one day and get me when I'm, older and I'm not as in great health anymore. And it does slow me down a lot, and it does make me worry. But at the same time, you only get to live once, and your time's up when your time's up. That's how it works. So, Roman would beat Lesnar, and that'd be the end of Lesnar in the main event. For now, or maybe ever. And then, of course, it was pretty much obvious. You know who it is. It's Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 39, Cody Rhodes. That's right, I altered mine. No have drop-down hips. The new one just came out. You can get the new one as well. It has drop-down hips, but it has the more Seth Rollins torso, which really is a more of a jacked look. I thought about getting that one, but everyone's like $80 for it. I should have pre-ordered it when it came out. I would not. I mean, if they do make the new one in like Elite style, I might just get that new one and then just change it up, because I'd still only drop down hips. But I'm cool with this attire. I like this attire too. It looks good. He would, lose at 39. But then, as you know, he comes back at 40, and after 3, just like he did 2, the previous year, and then Solo, came in and interfered. He would do 3 in a row, but if I remember correctly, too, like he did like 2 or 3 in that match. He did so many of those things, and it's just kind of like, definitely, put him over strong, but at the same time, he's like, that dude still took 5 of your finishers before you finally beat him. I don't recall Stone Cold doing 5 Stone Cold stunners to Shawn Michaels. It was 1 stunner. And the concern was, it wasn't, a spear and then, a kick out. It wasn't all these false finishes. It wasn't half the moves, interference. It was Stone Cold hitting a stunner on Shawn Michaels after he went for the sweet chin music, spun him around, kicked him in the gut, hit the stunner, and that was your new champion. So in this, it was like, okay, here's his finisher. All right, let's pull him back up. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. Okay, let's do one more. And then, and then now we'll do it. And then, but I don't know. I guess I'm just not a fan of it takes 7 finishers to put down a guy now, because then it's not really a finisher. When you think about it, I mean, back in the day, a finisher was a one and done. You didn't see, Triple H when he hit the pedigree, that was usually it. So that's my digression. I've been on here long enough. As you can see, I pretty much have everybody in Ultimate form who wrestled at main events of WrestleMania 1 through 40. Not in the attires, obviously, except for the 3 women, LT, and... Well, I have Big Show, but he's not here right now. But he was in WrestleMania 16's main event. I'm pretty happy with it. Who knows what happens the next, who knows how many more years I'm going to be doing this. Will I go to WrestleMania 50? I'd probably only be 47 at the time. So, obviously I can't take this with me when I die. So, this is going to be one heck of a collection. It's going to be one of these custom collections that is honestly going to either, go to my kid if I have one, or I'm going to cash out at some point when people are like, oof, we didn't get that guy in Ultimate form, but this guy built him. So, because again, I can't take him with me when I die, so I'm just going to enjoy what I can while I can. And, I can't be 80 years old trying to play with these things. My back won't last long enough for that. But thank you to the now 151 subscribers. Again, check the formulas. This video is mostly just for me to ramble and show off the main event WrestleMania Ultimate custom figures that I have. Many of these you can still buy on Mattel. A few of these, though, you have to make yourself. So, if you like this video, feel free to comment on it. I do plan to do the other ones like World Champions or half-man tag, half tag teams or tag teams as well. I'm still going to do the formulas individually on these and spend more time telling you how I built some of these guys. I know I started talking a little bit about it, but I mostly focused on the history of WrestleMania 1 through 40. Obviously, I don't have stills and photos, so I'm not going to have to get, copyright struck. These are figures that I've built and bought, and last time I checked, I don't think they strike you for using action figures to tell the history of the WrestleMania main events. So, till next time, enjoy your figures.